The Reds got it all this weekend. Unbelievable high moments and some low moments. Where does this team stand 31 games in? We'll ask Mark Sheldon. Plus,
there's nothing that he felt that he couldn't overcome.
Beating the odds, this Madeira athlete isn't letting anything stop him from competing in 3 sports for the school. And the smoke is all clear from the NFL draft, so how do we feel about the Bengals haul? We'll ask Jay Morrison.
From WCPO 9 Sports, this is Sports of All Sorts.
What up? Welcome to Sports of All Sorts. I'm Reggie Wilson. Did you miss me? On paper, the Bengals look good, but guess what, friends? They don't play the games on paper. Talent is not a question with the team. It's going to be how they put it together. More on the orange and black in a bit, but we start on the diamond. Ohio Cup will just have to wait because today's game was postponed because of weather. But still plenty of excitement this weekend for the Reds. Wade Miley became the 17th pitcher in franchise history to throw a no-hitter. 1 walk is the only blemish keeping him from a perfect game. In the place where the motto used to be strive for greatness, the Raging Cajun with shades of LeBron. Cleveland, this is for you. Miley's 4-year-old son convinced him to put a temporary Hulk tattoo on his forearm before the game, and he should never, ever wash it off. To add some levity to the achievement, the Reds' Twitter account said Miley incited a bench-clearing incident, a stark contrast to earlier in the night.
6th inning now, all my buddies left me, and I was like, I don't like that. I don't like thinking about pitching. I want to talk about something else, talk about fishing, talk about hitting. And there was nobody to talk to. I felt DJ scoot like over 2 or 3 feet. I'm like, come on, Deej. But it was fun. It was cool to be a part of, and just happy to do it, with this group of guys. And once again, Tucker Barnhart, I can't say enough about what he's done for me and just everybody, the training staff. You give me help, and my family support me in this journey, and just thank the good Lord for giving me this opportunity to do this for a living, and it's been fun.
Joining me to talk Reds is MLB.com Reds beat reporter Mark Sheldon. Mark, thanks for coming on. We've seen the high of a no-hitter on Friday, then the low of Saturday's flat effort, and Sunday you get a rain out. How best would you describe this weekend for the Reds?
I think it's a mixed weekend, just like you said. Everyone was very giddy and excited about what happened with Wade Miley getting a no-hitter, and they had a battle, of course, with they're almost possibly having 2 scoreless extra inning games in a row. They were able to score the 3 runs in the 9th inning and give him his no-hitter with a win. Saturday is just part of the evolution of Luis Castillo as he's trying to get out of the rut he's been in. And I think Sunday, in a lot of ways, the rainout's not necessarily the worst thing in the world. They're in a stretch of 30 games in 31 days. It's a 10-game, 3-city road trip without a day off. They've had a few days off lately, but I think an unexpected one can be good as they get ready to go to Pittsburgh and play 3 games there, and then going on to Colorado. So I think this is actually a good thing if they're off. It gives them a chance to kind of reboot and recharge.
Let's talk a little bit more about Miley. 34 years old, and he pitches the first no-hitter of his career. He's actually been pitching quite well this season. How do you feel like it culminated in Friday's performance?
In a few different ways. He's a different type of pitcher. It seems like nowadays no-hitters are more for the power pitchers and the guys that can blow you away with strikeouts. And although he had 8 strikeouts, the key to this one was the soft contact. He got 16 ground balls. Only 1 ball the entire game was hit at above 100 miles an hour. There were no balls that were kind of like in the odd gap or the found a hole. There was only, I think, 2 balls that even left the infield. So you put all that together, and then, of course, his quick work. He does not mess around. He has a policy of never turning his back to a hitter when he's on the mound, so he's always ready to pitch. And now a day is even more important than just being good is that you're also efficient. And he had 114 pitches, which is not too many pitches for one of these things. And he was able to kind of keep his pitch count pretty low throughout the game. And that's also important because sometimes you have a no-hitter going, but you're out of gas by the 7th inning. And the one thing that David Bell pointed out was he was throwing what seemed like it was easy throwing, and it was not the full exhausting effort that you often get from a pitcher going into the 9th inning.
The Reds sit at 15-16 right now. They've been inconsistent. I'm sure it feels familiar to fans. Why do you think this team is having so much inconsistency?
It's hard to say yet. It's still only been 30-plus games. the easiest line of demarcation you can point to is the home and road situations. That they're unbelievable at home as far as run production and big innings and things like that, and then they go on the road and they struggle, and that's not an uncommon thing. Great American Ballpark is a big advantage to hitters, and one thing they have going for them, I think, in this year as opposed to last year, is it doesn't seem like they're actually swinging for the fences, even though they are producing a lot of home runs. I think they figured out the line drive approach was more successful, and if you happen to run into a few home runs, great, because that's kind of what they've been doing. They've been hitting to all fields. They've been hitting line drives. Jesse Winker kind of encapsulates what they've been doing, and Nick Castellanos as well, and they're also getting their home runs. Why it's not happening on the road, I really can't say. It is a little befuddling, but I think that the good things about this year that makes it different than last year is the offense is producing. They're still one of the top offensive teams in baseball. Last year they were the worst. The bullpen has been it's been inconsistent. I don't know if is a word, but I'll go with it. It hasn't been great, but I think it's got the chance to get better. You have guys like TJ Antone on the back end, and Lucas Sims has had a couple of struggling outings, but I think overall he's still a very effective pitcher. And now we're starting to see Amir Garrett kind of emerge again. He's had 3 or 4 different, consecutive outings that have been pretty good. And after he was terrible. So I think they can do better than a 500 record, but it's just going to be, it's a long season. There's a long way to go, and the story has not been written yet.
Mark, I appreciate you taking some time. I guess we'll just continue to see what happens moving forward.
Yeah, we'll have to see. That's right.
Thanks, Mark.
All right, take care.
The Bengals address several needs in the draft, and fans are hoping it's go time. Coming up, were the moves enough to compete next season, and how much pressure is on first-round pick Ja'Marr Chase to make an impact right away? Welcome back. The Bengals have definitely ushered in some excitement this offseason, highlighted by last week's NFL draft efforts. Joining me to talk about it is Bengals beat writer Jay Morrison from The Athletic. Jay, thanks so much for taking the time. So how do we feel about what Cincinnati did in the draft and what this means for the team moving forward?
I think overall they did a good job. We're not going to know. You never know for a couple years what a draft class actually is. The offensive line and defensive line were train wrecks last year, and they address those heavily. You hear all the time teams talk about best player available. The Bengals, yeah, arguably that's what they did in the first round with Ja'Marr Chase. But after that, they went need. I mean, they just attacked those two needs. The other thing is what they did in attacking that need with trading back for Jackson Carman in the second round, the Fairfield kid. Big risk there. It really set them up. It's not just about whether Jackson Carman can play, and they are very high on him. They believe he can be a starting guard in this league. Obviously, if you take him in the second round, you expect that. But just giving them those 2 extra fourth-round picks, and that allowed them to take another offensive lineman, another defensive lineman, and Dante Smith, the offensive lineman, and Tyler Shelvin, the defensive lineman. And it really kind of created the flexibility that let them go get the number 1 kicker on their board in the 5th round.
Coach Taylor said this week that he thinks Ja'Marr Chase can be one of the great receivers over the next 10 to 15 years. And it got people talking. But, Jay, you don't take a guy that high if you don't feel that way, right?
Well, right. If you're taking number 5, the pressure's there already. The teams are expecting that of you, and especially if you're a wide receiver. We've seen these last few years wide receivers come in and really play well to even dominate as rookies. We saw A.J. Green do it 10 years ago in 2011. Of course, he got better as he went, but he was a difference maker right off the bat. He was number 4 overall, Ja'Marr Chase number 5. I don't think anything Zach Taylor could say would put any more pressure on Ja'Marr Chase. He's a supremely confident guy, and just the little bit that I've kind of gotten to know his personality through his pro day Zoom and then his Zoom after the Bengals drafted him, he's just going to say, go ahead, dump as much on me as you want to. I'm ready for it. I'll take it, and I'll perform.
Lastly, Jay, we're going into the 3rd year with Zach Taylor, and that's usually when you expect the team to take a leap. Do you feel like they've done enough to compete this upcoming season?
I do. The question is how fast. Because, is he going to have a full third season worth of leash? Or if they start 1-3, 1-4, 0-5, something like that, do they make a change immediately and say, hey, we've given you everything these last few years and something has to happen? Conversely, I talked about the swagger that Jamar Chase has. Joe Mixon, Tyler Boyd, everybody knows what Joe Burrow is, supremely confident, maybe not as vocal about it as some of these other guys. It just feels like if this team can get off to a fast start, something they haven't done, and since most of these guys have been here, who knows where that confidence goes? You could see this thing clicking really fast and it being a special season. I think the odds are more likely it's a 2-2, 3-3 kind of start. They get their feet wet, they find their footing, and I think they can be in the playoff mix in December. I'm not ready to stamp them as a playoff team yet, but I think this is the year we all kind of thought the playoff window would open, Joe Burrow's second year, but the injury kind of derailed that a little bit. Next year is when the playoff window flies open, but don't be surprised if it happens a year sooner, if things go off to a fast start and it just starts clicking right off the bat.
It's go time. Jay, I appreciate you stopping by. I hope to catch up with you again soon.
Yeah, great talking to you, Reggie.
So I want to hear from you. After what the Bengals have done in free agency and the draft, what are your expectations for the team next offseason? Playoffs or pump the brakes? Let me know. Tweet me at Reggie Wilson TV and make sure to use the hashtag SOAS. Well, coming up, Kenan Singleton shares an amazing story of an athlete refusing to let what many may perceive as a physical disadvantage slow him down. Welcome back. Track and field is a showcase for some of the best athletes around. And that's the case at Madeira High School, where Kenan Singleton has the story of one competitor who can't run, but is a terrific athlete in track.
If you're athletic, there's an event in track for you, for anybody. If you can run, jump, throw, whatever you want to do, if you're an athlete, track is for you. And so since he's an athlete, he's the same as everybody else, so let's see if we can get him out in the track.
These are the wheels that have helped Jamie Stanford's life come full circle.
The world of athletics have helped Jamie spread hope to 3 different avenues of sport: basketball, tennis, and track. Something he couldn't have imagined just 7 years ago.
7 years ago, I didn't know my life was. I didn't know what I was doing. Sports is my life right now.
Jamie's life is one that nearly never happened, says his mother, Shay.
He was dropped off at the Chinese orphanage about 2 months old, and he had his spinal cord was still outside his body at that point. Nothing had been done. In China, kids like that, they die.
Like they knew that by giving me away to someone else, they'd have a chance of me surviving.
Jamie was 5 when his parents adopted him from China. He was born with spina bifida, a condition that affects the spinal cord.
I can't jump, I can't run, I can't really sprint, I just can walk like probably a couple hundred feet, and that's pretty much it.
But he can ball. Basketball is his first love. He's played with the Cincinnati Dragons, a competitive traveling wheelchair team for disabled youth, for the last 7 years.
I'm already fast in basketball, so track is pretty perfect fit for me.
Josh Dooley runs the track program at Madeira. Working with Jamie brought new energy to him and the team.
Other kids can see how athletic he is. They're going to be drawn towards him because they have similarities now that they thought they didn't have before.
Jamie competes in the 100, 400, and 800, and often against able-bodied kids.
One more lap to go, Jamie, let's go!
Not just competes, but often beats them.
I thought they were going to wreck me in all of them, every single one of them, but turns out I beat some of them.
He's beating the odds, too.
He knows there's a fight in there, and that's what he draws on. From his orphanage experience, there's nothing that he felt that he couldn't overcome.
He's just your normal 3-sport athlete whose life has come full circle because of sports.
Nowadays, normal to me is being around with my teammates in a chair, And people walking around is kind of not normal to me, not much anymore. I just got used to it and dealt with it.
Kenan Singleton, WCPO 9 Sports.
Absolutely incredible. Just how serious does Jamie take athletics? Well, he doesn't eat junk food, although he says he misses root beer. Jamie plans to continue playing basketball in college. Well, I'm pleased to be joined By the voice you just heard, Keenan Singleton is my next guest. Keenan, always great to have you on. Walk me through how this story came about.
The power of social media, man. It can be a ugly evil sometimes, but it's a necessary evil, and it can wield some good things. Like this story, for example, I was on Twitter like we have to do for our job, just kind of scoping things out, news of the day, et cetera. And I saw a tweet from the AD over at Taylor High School. And there was a picture of him with Jamie Stanford. And he just said, hey, inspired to be next to this great athlete. And it just kind of piqued my interest. I saw Jamie clearly was in a wheelchair, it looked like a track event. And it looked like there were a lot of, as Jamie would call them, able-bodied athletes there. So, just from there I just wanted to dig a little bit deeper and find out, hey, what's this kid's story? Is he competing against able-bodied athletes? And, that's how it kind of organically came from there.
We get some access to do stories on a wide scope of people and topics. Jamie is a remarkable athlete with all kinds of perseverance. I'm sure it gives a lot of perspective to you. What did you learn from doing this story?
I think, as you mentioned, perseverance of just really body over mind in a lot of ways. I know we always say mind over matter, but this is a kid forcing his body to do some things that it probably naturally, and I don't want to overstep my bounds here, but I think naturally his body probably wouldn't be engineered to do some of the things that he's able to do, especially if we think, decades ago. These are things that Jamie wouldn't be afforded to be able to do. I mean, he's a sensational basketball player. Basketball is his best sport, as I tried to kind of denote in the story. And track and tennis are sports that he picked up to kind of cross-train for basketball so he could make himself into a better basketball player. So not that it makes me, get up a little bit earlier and maybe run some miles that I probably should, now that I'm getting a little bit older and some love handles here on Mother's Day. But it is inspirational in the fact that you could see a kid that, as he mentioned, he could have just easily have bypassed sports. He could have not done sports at all. It wasn't something that was on his natural path of life until his mom kind of took him to a basketball practice with his sister, and he fell in love with the sport and fell in love with athletics and everything that it's been able to afford him.
Lastly, you kind of just spoke to it a little bit, but what does Jamie want people who watch to know about him as a person?
Jamie is a pretty shy guy. I actually met him initially at an Anderson track meet, kind of getting some footage for the story. And I did a little background information on, talk to his coach, Josh Dooley, who's the head coach over at Madeira, who's also in the story. I just wanted to get to a chance to know who the kid was outside of just like, hey, I'm Keenan and I want to tell your story, and just kind of bombard him, because you know how it is with high school kids. I mean, even the biggest stars can be really, really shy. So you take this kid that's not used to the limelight. I didn't necessarily want to just get up all in his face and just kind of berate him with stuff. So we talked about his first car. He just started driving. He's got this old beat up 2002 Toyota. And then we talked about, I was like, man, you're going to love that car for the rest of your life, because it's your first car. It might not be your best car that you ever have, but it's going to be your first car. You never forget your first, right? We talked about basketball. He's a massive LeBron James fan, like a lot of us are out here. So we talked about a lot of things away from track. And then we were able to kind of slowly get into who he is as a person. And, the dude, doesn't eat junk food. His mom, I didn't kind of really get into the story. His mom lives in New Zealand. So that relationship, not strained, but, they're talking over text, they're talking over FaceTime. So he's got quite a story to tell. And I was really happy that he was open and really honest about where he's come from, the tough beginnings in China with spina bifida and being left at the orphanage, to where he is now. It's an incredible story, and a lot of credit to his parents, his coaches, and of course to Jamie himself.
Keenan, incredible storytelling, incredible young man. I appreciate you giving some insight and taking some time with me.
Hey, thank you, Reggie. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there, including my wife, Lee.
All right, we'll be right back to wrap up the show. Welcome back. Before I go, I want to leave you with a story, a personal one, about my mama. She's been my biggest source of motivation for as long as I can remember. She's been the most constant woman in my life, literally since birth. My dad passed away when I was 13 years old, but I always had mama. I learned what selflessness and sacrifice looks like from her. Growing up, I watched her put her boys first, no matter what, often going without to make sure we always had what we needed. That continued into my adult years. When I got my first job in television, I struggled to make it on my own. She'd often send money, even if she didn't really have it to give, so I was able to eat. Regina Wilson makes sure you don't go hungry. My mother's love also extends to my wife, who lost her mother when she was in college, and you can't tell her anything about her daughter-in-law. They've developed their own special relationship, and that covering means so much to us. Back in 2018, we got news of a scary cancer diagnosis. But just like every other obstacle I've seen her face in life, God gave her the incredible strength to beat it. And she's still here, blessing us with that smile. More than just a mother, my mom is a real-life superhero. My mama is very special to me, but I know she's not the only special one out there. Many of you have your own stories of your queen's heroic acts. So to all the mothers, thank you. We love you. Happy Mother's Day. Well, it's been real. It's been fun. It's been real fun, but we gotta go. I'd like to thank my guests Mark Sheldon, Jay Morrison, and Keenan Singleton for joining me tonight. And thank you to my village who helped me put this all together. Thank you for watching. Let's do it again next Sunday. Until then, have a good night and a very blessed week.